Hi, welcome to the latest episode of Sustainability Talks. I'm your host, Rob Genieser, Managing Partner of ETF Partners, Europe's leading venture capital firm focused on backing businesses that deliver what we call sustainability through innovation. Today, I'm pleased to welcome Antonis Schwarz, an impact investor, philanthropist, and impact investing consultant of Greek-German descent. In 2013, Tony co-founded Vulevac, a Greek parliamentary monitoring organization that aims to increase political accountability and transparency in that country. A strong believer in the power of activism, in 2016, he founded the Gorilla Foundation, which supports social movements and activists working towards bringing about major systematic change across Europe. The following year, he co-founded the Center for Sustainable Finance and Private Wealth, an academic research and training institution at the University of Zurich. Since 2018, together with the social entrepreneurship Netzwerk Deutschland and several partner organizations, he is campaigning for the establishment of a German impact investing wholesaler funded through dormant assets. As a proud member of Millionaires for Humanity and Tax Me Now, he advocates for tax justice in Germany and abroad. He currently works part-time as an impact investing consultant for Fineo. In today's episode, we discuss how Europe can move towards a more sustainable and impactful VC and startup ecosystem. In particular, we'll be exploring what sustainability trends are emerging in the European venture capital landscape, how those trends are being affected by macroeconomic factors, what investors should look out for when considering sustainable investments, and how government policies can support the space. This episode will be a must listen for anyone interested in how we can marry profit with purpose and deliver consistent, sustainable innovation. So, welcome, Tony. And I want to start with, you're doing a lot here, but what's really driving you?
Well, thanks for having me on the show, Rob. It's a true pleasure. And my initial reaction would be to say coffee, but I guess you're poking at more deeper questions about motivations, etc. And I think one thing that really drives me is to have in mind how really time is slipping away when it comes to saving the climate or reducing the worst effects of what is to come. So yeah, we're living in pretty historic moments, and I guess we're going to be judged by what we do.
So you want to make an impact, but how do you actually divvy up what you do during the day? Because I think you're working a day job, you're trying to be a private investor, and also serving as a philanthropist, I think particularly around your family office. So maybe talk to me about how you divvy up your day and where you spend your time.
Yeah, I mean, it depends really, but to give you a broad overview, so I work 2 days a week at the impact investing consultancy Fineo, and then I have my private investments in funds, impact investing funds. That's easy to manage because I don't have direct investments. I just read the reports and basically criticize the funds if they do something wrong, or maybe challenge them here and there. Then philanthropy takes up quite a big chunk of my time. As you mentioned, I co-founded this foundation called Gorilla Foundation that supports activists and social movements. So that's actually a bit of work. And I also do some private philanthropy outside the foundation. And quite recently now, we have some new developments with the dormant assets project in Germany that you mentioned, where we're lobbying the German government to basically create a law for dormant assets like in the UK, because in Germany, actually, dormant bank accounts that haven't been touched for 30 years, this money actually goes to the banks, which I think is not what is desirable for society. So it kind of depends by the week and the month. But broadly speaking, I do investments and philanthropy and activism, I would say, or advocacy, if you want to call it. Yeah.
Great. So there's a lot of in that introduction. I'm going to unpick some of it as we go through the discussion. But maybe we can start with a simple question. I mean, you've been looking at impact investing for over a decade. I think we've known each other for even potentially longer. But how has our world of impact investing changed since you've been involved?
Yeah, I think if you want to put it into a picture, I would say it's like a hockey stick or the exponential curve. You know, like it's quite astounding to see how important the sustainability topic has become. So yeah, I would say it's in an exponential curve, and I think we're moving towards a new paradigm where investments will by default look at the impact, positive and negative, that investment has. And it makes also a lot of sense from a fiduciary point of view, from an investor point of view. Just has to do also with thoroughness to some extent. And but it also kind of poses the question about what is the economy there for? What kind of product, service are you providing? Is it just to, produce wants that are like not there, so like the consumerist approach? But so it's about posing the question about, do we actually need this product? Who does it serve, etc.
Good. And a very simple question for you, since you've been doing it for a long time, are you happy in a general sense with what, if you would, our system is doing in terms of delivering returns to the investors and having an impact?
By and large, yes, I am. I think the nicest kind of return in a way is also not only, but also if you have like a highly successful, financially speaking, investment that has a high impact, which I think is also ETF Partners' thesis. These kind of investments you can really rub in the face of people that are doubting impact investments, because there are a lot of people that have serious doubts that you can have both impact and financial return. So yeah, I mean, for me personally, I have also made investments that have gone south, that have been terrible. But I think if I've done over 20 fund investments, I think this is like completely normal. Yeah, I think impact investments are also more resilient than conventional investments. And maybe I could say two more words about this, which is that the entrepreneurs are really in it also for the impact, right? So the dedication that people bring to the table might be a bit different.
Okay. And then how satisfied are you with the measurement that's going on around impact? I mean, I think financial measurement's been there for quite a while, but the idea of actually measuring the impact that a company is having or a portfolio is having, that's something that's really come on in the last few years. So where are we on that journey?
I think this space of impact measurement and management, the IMM space, there's a lot of development going on. It's a bit confusing. There are several standards that are emerging. Some are also changing names, which is also very confusing. Like the Impact Management Project, which is very famous, one of the leading standards, is now called the Impact Management Norms. So that's also like, suddenly people have to learn that name. So this abbreviation soup that's going on, it's quite confusing. But I see that, of course, the UN SDGs are clearly one of the most important frameworks. The Impact Management Project, which is now the Impact Norms Project, the operational principles for impact management. I think these three are super important, and the IRIS Plus catalog. So I would maybe name these four. And but yeah, it's not easy to keep up with these developments. But I think slowly, like the standards will converge, and there will be more clarity, and it's a matter of time.
So I noticed, Tony, in your country of Germany, the financial regulator came after an asset manager for promoting products that were said to be green.
Thank the Lord.
Well, and so a bit of greenwashing.
Yes.
Do you think it's easy actually for investors to look through today to the authentic manager?
Well, I think on the public equity side, it's like this term impact is can mean everything and nothing, because it's not really protected in a way. So I recently saw a manager that had like this Impact Energies, whatever, and it was full of ExxonMobil and all these guys. So I think in the public equities, you really have to look a bit deeper under the hood. And in terms of the public markets, I think there are certain industry organizations like the Global Impact Investing Network, the GIN, EVPA, and Tonic, and others. So there you can at least see that they're part of a good crowd, let's say. But obviously, you always need to check what is the intentionality, the motivation of the founders and the managers. And I think that's something that is not always so easy. Actually, is to really gauge the authenticity of the intentionality.
And I'm curious, maybe a controversial question. You see a lot of very, very large fund managers today, particularly I think in the United States, that are now promoting ESG reporting as their impact, as their answer to impact investing. And I think you and I have done it long enough to know the difference between the two. Are you, if you would, confident the big sums of money that are being managed are being directed in the right way? Or is this a little bit of, what's the right word, looking politically correct at a point in time, or perhaps ticking a box?
Yeah, I think it shows that this topic of impact and ESG cannot be ignored anymore. So for the large asset managers, it's not anymore a nice to have, it's a must have. So I think it's really essential for them to have such products. And of course, it's hugely hypocritical if you have on your private equity, on your plain vanilla conventional fund, you invest in oil and gas and in shale gas and all that, and then on the impact side, you're like, we invest in green energy and so on. So this is kind of a schizophrenia that's definitely taking place with the big fund managers. On the other hand, I have to say that if you have large institutional investors where the smallest ticket that they write is like 100 million, then they need to have these big players. Sometimes they have a track record, and then they can actually deploy very substantial amounts of money. And probably the most important impact investment in that regard is probably the investment of Temasek, Singaporean sovereign wealth fund. They invested, I think, over $500 million into Leapfrog, which is one of the leading impact managers focused on Southeast Asia and financial services. And I think this really shows that if you bring together the track record and you're able to tick all these other boxes, then you can unlock these hundreds of millions and even billions. And I think it's better than the money going to like conventional strategies for sure.
Tony, I have to say, having worked at a subsidiary of Temasek earlier in my career, I'm always very pleased when you say nice things about them. So thank you for that. But maybe talking about big pools of capital, you can explain a little bit more about your vision for taking some of the dormant assets that are sitting in Germany today and using them for good. So first of all, maybe explain what that's all about and what the magnitude of that could be if you were able to mobilize that capital.
Yeah, basically this whole story started for me in 2018, where I basically was thinking about cool / good / impactful projects to bring to Germany. And one of the reasons why the UK impact investing market is so much more advanced than the German impact investing market is that you have this so-called wholesaler, a fund of funds called Big Society Capital. And I read about this organization, and I saw that part of the funds come from so-called dormant bank accounts, which is basically a bank account where the bank has lost contact with the owner. So the bank tries to contact the owner, can't find the owner. And in the UK, they establish a scheme where after 15 years, this money is transferred to the so-called reclaim fund. People are able to reclaim their money there with greater ease because there is a central registry. So if you have, for example, also someone in the family that or a relative that dies, you can go there to this reclaim fund and see if this person had any assets somewhere and then get paid out. And the experience shows that less than 10% actually reclaim the money. So you reserve 40% to be on the safe side because you want to be able to service these reclaims in perpetuity, and 60% you can safely assume that these funds will not be reclaimed, and the majority of these funds goes to Big Society Capital to be invested in impact funds in the UK. And we want to do something similar in Germany. We don't have a law for dormant assets. We're the only G7 country without such a law. And in Germany, after 30 years, the banks are allowed to close the bank accounts and keep the money as profit. No central registry, so you cannot look for the funds of deceased relatives and people where you might inherit funds. So we basically got together, we wrote a paper. We estimate that around 2 billion euros are sitting on dormant German bank accounts. And we want this money to be used for productive use for society. So not to go to the banks after 30 years. And we've made it into the coalition contract. So the government now, they say that they want to do it. But the de facto what happened with the Ukraine war was that this whole project got set back because of different priorities. And now we're trying to do our best to make it into a priority again, because we only have 2 years of government left in Germany, and the last year they say is party politics and election mode. So we only have 1 year left. So we're working very hard now to lobby German government on this.
So are you optimistic though for the long term that the world can move towards a better place through the
Absolutely
innovation?
I mean, also in Greece, like we, in 2011, we had like barely 5% renewable energy. And today we have, I think around 40% renewable energy, at least in electricity. And that's already quite something. So you see things are progressing. Unfortunately, they're not progressing fast enough when you compare it to the task. But yeah, at least something's happening, but not on the scale that we would need it.
And so what do you think is going to drive it? Is it going to be good government policies, regulations? Is it going to be the corporations that are leading from the front, offering products and services that are more sustainable? Or is it going to be the consumer in the street who's going to reach out and say, hey, I demand a different lifestyle?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of everything. I mean, I really think that the impact investing space, and especially in the venture capital space where you're also active, that it really does have an impact. I'm very bullish about the future of the European impact venture capital system. We're going to see unicorns come out of it, many unicorns, hopefully. So I think it will need investors, it will need entrepreneurs, it will need policymakers, it will need activists, it will need people inside the companies that are entrepreneurs. And I think what we really need to get under control, though, is the biggest 100 emitters, especially the big fossil fuel companies. I think these companies, oftentimes they're also state players. They need to be scrutinized quite a lot because they really are the big players in the field.
An interesting question for you, given your commitment to this space. 10 years on, 20 years on, Tony, you're looking back on your career. What will success be for you?
I mean, for me, success obviously is to have an impact, to do nice projects, etc. But I think it's also to form meaningful relationships with the people that I work with, and I think that's the most important thing. I think that you can build in your life as meaningful relationships.
And again, since you've been doing it for a while, talk to me about lessons learned. So you've been at the forefront, I would say, of the push for change.
Yeah.
So, what have you told the generation that's looking to follow in your footsteps? What advice do you have?
Well, I think the most important asset that you have is your brain, and to really invest in your brain and your critical thinking. I think that's probably the advice I can give. And then maybe I like playing the piano also, as just pick an instrument. Maybe it's a great source of relaxation, inspiration, and I think your whole life will benefit from it.
Excellent. So focus on your inner self, perhaps, and ensure that you're making the right decisions and leading a balanced life. You mentioned the brain. You're very committed to working on mental health issues, and one could argue with perhaps the stress and the strain of dealing things with the climate emergency. That those topics will continue to become more pronounced, more important for a generation. Maybe talk to us a little bit about what you've been doing in that space, because I think it's quite interesting.
Yes, sure. I mean, there are a couple of more and more startups coming up in this field of mental health, and recently I got connected with a team that wants to start the first dedicated mental health fund. And I've actually been battling also with depression in my life, so it's something that I've experienced firsthand. And if you look through the numbers, we actually live through an epidemic of mental health, basically, and it's a totally underestimated subject. And and so basically, this fund wants to capitalize on that, I guess. but it's a huge problem. Like this fund called Masawa, they say that it's the number one cause of disability in Europe is depression, and that every year the EU loses 600 billion euros because of this. So it's a huge problem, especially now with COVID. I think also the younger generations had a spike in mental health problems. It's just something that's getting worse, I think, and needs to be addressed.
Well, thank you for sharing a little bit about your personal journey there.
Sure.
Also, I think the need is very real, and I think you remind us you can have impact in many different ways, and so that's certainly a very, very important area to be investing in and thinking about.
And maybe one comment also in terms of your work also in the venture capital space. A lot of founding teams, they fail because of the team dynamics. And so I think this is also the team dynamics, I guess, also go into the mental health. And a lot of actually venture capital companies, they start working with consultants to actually coach the founders, the entrepreneurs on their journey, because they are under tremendous amount of stress, also of burnout. So it can make sense, to actually tell them, if you need a consultant or you need a specialist, we're here to help you.
I couldn't agree with you more. Finding the right founders, surrounding them with the right team, supporting them in their journey, I think is very much a critical aspect of what we do. And that makes for a great company. I am curious, as you've been thinking about this, do you think our types of businesses are in some ways easier to grow because a lot of the people that show up there are in some way or other mission-based with a common set of principles?
You mean that founders that are very intrinsically motivated are the better entrepreneurs, basically?
Well, yeah, and then the team that they attract around them because they want to have an impact, right?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think also for my generation, because we hop around a lot with our jobs, I think purpose is super important. So it's not so much only about status; it's about purpose. You need to have an organization that can show to its employees that it's there for the greater good also.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing for all stakeholders today, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you have to believe that what you're doing is worthwhile. So, Tony, any final remarks? You have an audience from around the world listening to you. I mean, as a impact investor, what words of wisdom do you want to leave everybody with?
I think it's important to also get involved in politics personally. Obviously politics is a very frustrating subject. I think being active in this field is also not a bad idea. In terms of just making your voice heard on the local level, on the municipal level, or higher up, and maybe even running for office, who knows. So I think we just need to be a bit more active on the political front, I guess. Yeah, and I think the impact investing space, it will continue to grow very fastly, and interesting times.
Well, I'll take that to be get involved in your community, go make a difference, get stuck in. And if you do all that, we can hopefully help work to solve the problems of the day. And, I want to thank you as one of the great family office investors in our space, advisor to companies in this space, and also pushing on the political landscape to do the right thing. I think you're a great role model for us all to think about.
Thanks, Rob. Really appreciate it.
All right. That was Tony Schwarz, and thank you again for joining.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Sustainability Talks podcast. To find out more or join as a guest, head over to the ETF Partners website at etfpartners.capital. You can also connect with us on LinkedIn and follow us on Medium at ETF Partners. Until next time, thanks for listening.